eliminated. The winning team moves on to face the Orlando Magic this Friday, and the winner of that game advances to face the top-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. Last night, the Magic beat the Hawks 120-95. Tonight in the West, the Sacramento Kings host the Dallas Mavericks. The winner moves on to face the Memphis Grizzlies this Friday for the 8th seed and first-round matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Warriors beat the Grizzlies 121-116 last night to lock up the 7th seed. Major League Baseball, the Cubs beat the Padres 2-1 in 10 innings, handing the Padres their first loss at home this season. They dropped to 11-1 at Petco Park. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Find what you love and love what you find. A Total Wine and More, the place to go for sipping rosés with seltzers on ice, making margaritas with your favorite tequilas. It's warm out, let's go. Our prices are low on spirits, beer, and wine. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. B21.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppables, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
Get the SportsGrid mobile app and get gaming strategies and information faster than you can say, "No, honey, I know how to gamble," when your wife asks for $10 to get a scratcher. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, SiriusXM Channel 159.
Forget that you act like you've been there before. Come on, we've been here before. We're here right now in the moment, living it up. It's the best hour of your day. It's officially underway. It is Moneyline. It's Donnie Rightside today on another solo mission right here on the SportsGrid Network, SiriusXM Channel 159, SportsGrid On Demand. Hello, everybody in the chat box having fun, saying hello. Aaron Schoen, we're ready to go today. It's a Major League Baseball day. If you're watching on the live stream, which is SportsGrid On Demand. Donnie, how do I find that? Go to YouTube. Type in SportsGrid, one word, on demand, two separate words. So SportsGrid, then on, then demand. You'll see it pop up there. Hit live. We're ready to go. The best way to reach out to the host here while we're doing radio, that's the way to do it. The chat box is live. It's up there and also plugging away. Now, as I retweet on here that we are live on the SportsGrid Network, if you're listening on SiriusXM Channel 159, awesome stuff. The SportsGrid Radio app, fantastic. SportsGridRadio.com is how you get there. And also, you're not downloaded, or you haven't downloaded, I should say, our SportsGrid app, wherever apps are available, make sure you do that. Follow your favorite host here on the network, and away we go into the afternoon. Now, Major League Baseball is of the essence today. Why? Because we don't have time to delay. 1 o'clock game, 1 o'clock game, 1 o'clock game, 1 o'clock game, right off the bat. There's 4 1 o'clock games. Good part about this show, as we air 11 Eastern to 12 p.m. Eastern. We do have that sort of downtime for an hour to make those picks final. But we want to make sure we get through as many games as possible today to try to set the table. Now, each and every day that we have here, like the solo missions that we have, Christian Hess coming into the chat box saying hello as well, is the angles that you're playing in the month of April. Yesterday, it actually was a successful night with handicapping, per se. Went 1-1 with sides and totals, which, again, juiced out just a little bit. No big deal. But also, I didn't make money in the 1+1+1 market yesterday. And a sort of a little bit of disappointment with that, because why? There was 21 players that we went over yesterday on this show. 17 of those 21 hit the 1+1+1 market. 10 of those 21 batters had an RBI yesterday, which are all plus money numbers. 6 of the 21 hit a home run. But I was even going into some different details there, because I'm just going to bring up my Twitter feed right now, at RightSideVP, which I post just about everything. I also have some interesting news coming up as well. with some daily videos with picks and stuff that we'll certainly get to at a little bit later. But I am starting to ramp up some coverage as we get to May, which starts the sweet spot in Major League Baseball. So as I was going over those numbers once again, as I hit my notifications here and just go over some of those things that we had. All right, here we go. So on the initial tweet that I had this morning, showing some of the statistics that we had yesterday, which were good, but the leveling up is really where you can do some damage. How many times have you guys take a bet like an RBI wager? Let me just take one RBI for Bryce Harper at a plus 135 price. Gets the RBI. We look at the box score. It was a 2-run home run. So it was 2 RBI. Like, ooh, if I would have leveled up, that would have been a 4-1 price. Or if you had 3 RBI, that's up to plus 650 or 7-1 price. Oh, it would have been nice to have it. Now, granted, you could burn yourself by just taking a 3 RBI night on random players and they all get 1 RBI. You should have had a great night and didn't make any money. Understand that. But if we're talking about the simple level ups, like yesterday, 17 of 21 hit that 1 market, which means a combination of 1 hit, 1 run, or 1 RBI. Did you know out of those 21 batters yesterday, if you leveled up 1 gauge, which would have gone from, let's just say, the average player from a minus 300 down to like a plus 100 or minus 125, is the 2+2+2 market, which again is a combination of 2 runs scored in that game, 2 hits in that game, and or 2 RBI. So again, well, how could you get all those? It's not. Understand what I'm saying here. You could have 1 base hit, a single, and the guy behind you hit a home run. You covered your 2+2+2 market because you scored a run on the home run and you got a base hit, which counts as a hit. But if you did the 2+2+2 market yesterday, 15 of the 21 batters hit, as opposed to 17 of 21 in the 1+1+1 market. These are the things that we track in April, where I always like to share with the people where the attention span is and how you're always changing numbers. And you even get the concepts of the light bets. Like I was very light on my betting yesterday. I think I ended up losing $19 overall, which is fine. The goal in April is not necessarily to make a lot of money. To keep your head above water, but also understand that you're setting the table for a lucrative season on some of the numbers that you're tracking early on. Like usual units for me, quarter units, half units, full units plus. Like, yes, that's a normal baseball season. But for me, doing like $10 and $20 units right now, just to keep things and say what makes the most sense, you can do that. And by the way, of those 21 batters yesterday, the 3+3+3 market, 10 of those 21 batters hit that 3+3+3 market. So I'm going to go right now and just give you guys the equivalent of some of the numbers that you might be looking at that sort of changes your landscape, because it's easy to talk about and say what the statistical advantages are, but just to put it in real terms so people can follow along. Let's just pick out a random game today, right? Let's go to a game that I'm just going to use the Philadelphia Phillies game here. And we'll go just with Phillies numbers because you can understand some of the guidelines of those players. I'm going to go to player props. I'm going to go all the way down to, let's see here, the total runs, hits, and RBI market. So let's just say, as we were playing along, as I just told you, 17 of the 21 yesterday in the 1+1+1 market. If we're looking at Trey Turner, to get one of those, that's a minus 340. So if Trey Turner gets a base hit, it clears the minus 340. Now, granted, in that marketplace, you're doing parlays at that point to try to get 2 or 3 of those guys together so you can actually make a profit, as opposed to just betting minus 340. Hey, $340 to win 100 on Trey Turner doing that. Now, if you have a lot of angles on that, sure. But hear me out on this. Minus 340, if you say, okay, I'm going to go Trey Turner to get 2, the 2+2+2 market. That goes from a minus 340 price down to minus 125. So that's more in the range where you can bet that as a singular option, as opposed to include it in a parlay. You take a look then at Trey Turner to get 3 in the 3+3+3 market, which means hit, run, and RBI. Again, you can get 3 base hits, you can cover that. You could score 3 runs, can cover that. Any combination of the 3. If you do that, that now turns into a plus 180 price. So do you see where we're going with that? And take a look at maybe one of those guys that Trey Turner usually bats, a little bit higher in the roster here. Let me just take a look. Like Nick Castellanos, right? Minus 290 turns into a 215. You see where we're going on that with those different markets that you have. That makes a lot of sense here. I'm just going to log in and we're going to start to, use some of these numbers as we progress. But the reason I brought that up is, you take a look at yesterday, and there were some games where really were befuddling to me. Like in the Arizona-Miami game last night. On yesterday's Moneyline show, 5 players I circled for the Arizona Diamondbacks yesterday. Every single one of those hit in the 1+1 market. But then you start to take a look at what else did they do? RBI from Corbin Carroll, RBI from Perdomo, RBI from Bo Naylor, and multiple RBIs. Like Corbin Carroll had 5 RBI yesterday. He had 3 out of Perdomo. You also had 1 out of Josh Naylor in that lineup. But also the multiple numbers. You take a look at the 3 players they're listed, and it's great because I didn't play Edwards or Lopez yesterday in the Miami lineup. I changed some things around. 2 of those 3 hit out of that game and also an RBI market. So here's the concept that I think might be worth tracking. And again, it's going to be over a couple days. We have a couple months left here, a couple weeks left in the month of April. My guy X-Man checks in. CJ's in here saying we're getting close to that 30 innings pitched mark. Yes, we are, which lets things open up a lot more. But the concept that I'm trying to look into is what gets you that even? Because nobody wants to be burned. The 1+1+1 market does make sense, but I'm thinking right now, it might actually make a little bit more sense early in the season, the way things will get left, because I've had so many bad beats on those where everybody in the lineup is getting at least a statistic, and I'm getting left out in the cold. Case in point, yesterday with the Marlins, the team total over 3.5 for the game. Parlayed that with 2 other players. The only 2 players in the lineup without a statistic were the 2 guys I bet. You gotta be kidding me. They're not just throwing darts here. They were a handicap that just didn't work out. I'm also trying to look at the early season advantages with just straight batting average as well. We got a long way to go in this hour. We're teaching concepts here to try to make money. For DRS,
Download the SportsGrid mobile app.
Just do it. You might as well get it.
We're not going to shut up about it until you do.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. Former U.S. Representative Mayra Flores of Texas launched a bid to unseat Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar in 2026, followed by her campaign announcing just hours later on social media that she had been hospitalized, but no further details. Flores was the first Mexican-born congresswoman in the U.S. House after winning a 2022 special election, but lost her bid for a full term. Burglars tunneled through concrete wall to gain access to a Los Angeles jewelry store, making off with at least $10 million worth of merchandise. The heist happened around 9:30 p.m. Sunday at Love Jewels on Broadway in the heart of downtown's jewelry district. The search was suspended this week for 5 people missing after a boat capsized during a failed suspected smuggling venture off of Florida's Atlantic coast. On Sunday, Coast Guard crews rescued 4 people from the ocean some 29 miles off St. Lucie Inlet, which is 46 miles north of West Palm Beach. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on...
Let's make something crystal clear. The winning edge has nothing to do with increasing good luck. Luck has nothing to do with it. It's sports gaming strategies and information. You want luck? Flip a coin. You want to win?
Flip it here.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
I do like to dabble in round robin as well. Donnie Wright's out here on a solo mission edition of Moneyline right here on a Wednesday afternoon, in Major League Baseball certainly on top of our minds right now. And just trying to find that pathway to success early in April that can sort of carry you through to the summer. And yesterday, a lot of success in a lot of different areas in certain games that you have. So I think the focus, again, you know me, I'm an RBI guy and I'm a team total guy. So if we look at team totals, here's what I'm trying to weigh as well. The straight team total or the alternate team total in like a parlay form. Like, let's just say I'm just throwing out, 2 games tonight. Not so I like Cleveland and Baltimore, Washington and Pittsburgh, right? And I'm not even looking at the statistics on what their actual team totals are. Let's just go if you bought Cleveland down to 2.5 and you bought Washington down to 2.5, right? Sort of plays that plus money number. Would that be better than just playing two different sides at the regular numbers there? Because I do think team totals make a lot of sense. You can pick on a pitcher that you think is about to explode or should be hit that night, and you don't have the dilemma of, man, they scored 6 runs, but I got nothing out of the guy that I actually needed to get the runs out of. You see where we're going with that? Not outsmarting yourself. So team total is certainly going to be on there. RBI props as well. Because yesterday, as you saw me with some of the statistics there, with the guys getting RBI, multiple RBI, like in the game for the Marlins, I picked 3 guys out on yesterday's money line. One of those guys got an RBI. The Arizona one, 5 guys picked out. 3 of those guys got at least an RBI. O'Neal Cruz feels like he's dead to me right now because of the bad plate appearances, but it's a shame of it, is what it goes. The Guardians game, everybody cashed in for me, but also 2 of the 3 guys got an RBI in that one. You look at the Yankees game last night, which, Ben Rice let me down, but everybody else had written behind him actually had some statistics and really good statistics outside of him. It happens. But also 2 of the 5, as I see right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, had RBI. You take a look there for the New York Mets last night. I wrote down Lindor, Soto, Alonso, and Nimmo. And I ended up putting Nimmo in there, which hurt me a little bit. But 2 of those 4 guys had gotten RBIs yesterday. So those are the numbers that we're looking at. So team total, RBI, and understanding how we can level up that 1+1+1 market into 2+2+2 into 3+3. And also maybe laddering up and taking levels, like taking a little bit of a piece of 2s and then extending it to 3s. Because I'm telling you right now, there were some guys yesterday, like let's just say Corbin Carroll, that got 9 total in that 1+1+1 market. So if we're going over to Bet365 and checking out that type of action, let me just scroll down because I want to make sure I can pop this in and give you guys a really good look. I'm not using Corbin Carroll's stats from or his lot 9s from today, but let's just say if it was Trey Turner that got 9, can I even go that high? I can go up to 8. You can go up to 8 in the total hits, runs, and RBI market. That's a 35-1 price, which what Corbin Carroll did. So if you say, well, Donnie, go with a true superstar like Bryce Harper. You get the 8 market, not even 9, 40-1. Now understand this. He was the high man of the totem pole yesterday. But let's just, again, use Bryce Harper as that person in the middle of the lineup. Perdomo got to the 5 number yesterday in the 1+1+1 market. And if that was Bryce Harper today, that's a 7-1 price. You see the level of lottery tickets you can get from those? And again, I'm not saying you should go up to the 5 market and just go willy-nilly because there's chances that you might get none. But I do think there is a correlation between, the over 1.5 bases, man, got a single. Wasn't able to get the second base. But in the 2+2 market there, you can get that single. You can steal second base. A ground ball gets you to third base, and a sac fly gets you home. You hit that 2 market, but you didn't hit your base prop. You see where I'm going with that? I think it makes more sense there. You pay a little bit more juice, but the trips that of just getting on base no longer, oh, no, he got on in an error. Or, oh, no, he walked. You see where I'm going with this? I think it makes sense. So team total market, RBI market, and the 2+ market, straight wagers, I think makes some sense. And again, just to even it out, and I'm using the Phillies here just as a backbone for what I have. Are you going to get rich doing that? Just look at the San Francisco game tonight versus the Phillies. The 2 total hits, runs, and RBI market. If you go with 1 with Trey Turner, it's 340. If you go with 2 with Trey Turner, it's 125. Alec Bohm, -325 in the 1 market, -115 in the 2 market. Same thing with everybody. Bryce Harper, 270 in the 1 market, 110 in the 2 market, which again, hit a home run. That's 3 right there. Why? It's 1 hit, it's 1 run, and it's 1 RBI. So I like this as we start to feel out the process and how it makes some sense on different ways to handicap Major League Baseball. I think you can be a winner. And sometimes you say, you know what, Donnie, I don't like that concept. I'm going to tweak it. Love that. That's what it's here for. It's not for me to preach on this is the only way to do things. You can find your own sliding scale to what exactly works, and you don't have to be holding yourself to it. Like you can go Trey Turner, 1+1+1 market, and then go, I think Castellanos has a big day. I'm going to go him in the 3 market and parlay this together. That makes sense. But I'm just looking from a perspective where maybe it's the 2s and maybe it's the 3 market that can make some sense. So we'll go 2s and 3+. Now, granted, you might be looking at again today 20+ batters that fit that criteria. So, Donnie, that's kind of expensive. Don't worry about expense here in April. And I'm not saying like you should be betting a lot. Even if you're betting $1 just to track it, on over the length of a week or two to say, boy, this is really working out my favor, where it does make sense to go to the 3 market as opposed to the 2 market, as opposed to the 1 market in parlays. And the same thing with team totals in the RBI market. The 1 market to the 2 market is a pretty big deal. Like, let's go to the RBI market. 1 RBI, and again, we'll just lean with Bryce Harper. Like, look at this. Harper to get an RBI tonight against Robbie Ray. That's a 2-to-1 price. That's good. To get 2 RBI, it's plus 650. Again, man on first base, 2-run home run, like he did last night. That cashes a 650 ticket. So do you take 1 RBI and the 2 RBI market in hopes that they get multiple? Because if you like a player in that market, if you like a player to hit a home run, or his ISO power numbers are high, or his weighted on base percentages are high, right? That's where you fit yourself into that landscape and say, 3-run home run. I had him for 1 RBI, which is great. He cashed in. But boy, if Bryce Harper had 18-1 for Bryce Harper in the middle of that lineup to get 3 RBI. Is it tough to get 3 RBI? Yeah, not everybody does it. But you know what? Last night, you know who did it? Corbin Carroll and Perdomo. Also, Stephen Kwan hit a 3-run home run. You see what I'm going with this? The guys do this all the time. Oof, man. Soto, Alonso, so many different ways to go. Let's get the handicap started next year. We've got a lot of games to get in, a lot of early afternoon action, but I'm excited for tonight. I love when we get anticipation of what's to come. Donnie Rightside, it's Moneyline, it's the SportsGrid Network. We'll be right back.
Get the SportsGrid mobile app. It's much easier to carry than your lucky horseshoe.
And you won't get stopped at the airport.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1929, the New York Yankees become the first major league team to permanently feature numbers on the backs of uniforms. Numbers corresponded to a position in the batting order. And in 1983, Steve Garvey set the NL record by playing in his 1,118th consecutive game.
Steve Garvey has given the Dodgers a 3-1 lead.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New University of Ottawa research says if you're a member of the Polar Bear Club and like to take a dip in the ocean during sub-zero weather, you might actually be extending your life. This study finds acclimating your body to repeated exposure to immersion in cold water for an hour over 7 days supercharges cellular resistance, the body's natural mechanisms cleaning out damaged tissue. If you want to try this for yourself and you're not quite ready to jump into the Arctic Ocean, maybe just try a cold shower. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
Neil play, you ready? Hero, hey Hero, 4 threes.
Hey Hero.
I've been following this guy, Justin Champagne. This guy, 15 points on this Justin Champagne. Forget the Prosecco, go with the Champagne.
Forget the Prosecco, go with the Champagne.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Weekdays 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. There are too many people addicted to their phones these days, unless it's to look or listen to the SportsGrid mobile app.
In fact,
you should delete all your apps but ours.
Your wife texts you too much anyway.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, let's keep it simple today with these handicaps. We do have, let me just see the full card. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games on the card today. Afternoon action, which means starts before 6 o'clock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 4 of those games are starting in the 1 o'clock hour. Now, we can always waste our time and go back and forth. Like Bassett and Strider, I'm telling you right now, I don't have any props in that game. We don't have any numbers on Strider. He's probably going to come back and dominate. Bassett's been very good. Actually, number 1 on the card today with 18 1/3 innings pitched and an xFIP of 2.63 and an ERA under 1. See what we're doing here? Let's work in reverse. Let's take a look at the pitchers on the card today. And I understand it's still very early in the baseball season. but I want to start with XFIP pitchers that are above a 4. I don't care what their ERA is. We're just going XFIP style because Matthew Boyd today, 1.59 ERA, 4.22 XFIP. Maybe due to get hit. Doesn't always work. It's early. Pitchers have anywhere between, what's the high number today? 20 innings pitched, and that's Jose Soriano. Everybody's really in that teens range, per se, unless like a David Festa, only 1 start, 4.2 innings. Patrick Corbin, no matter where he's at, he gets torched. But we'll take it in stride right now. Let's start at everybody over 4 as an XFIP and try to handicap those games that way. Sean Newcomb of Boston going up against Tampa Bay with Zach Littell. So let me just circle that game. Let's see what we have here. Okay, minus 134 is at the opening number. That's up to around minus 145, depending on where you're shopping at. Total, 9s across the board. If we're looking at this game, and let's bring up my handy-dandy weather information. Steinbrenner Field, as we know, very good hitting environment. Yesterday, Bregman went off, a couple home runs, launched over that right field wall. 73 degrees and a wind blowing out to right field. We like to see that. Now, Sean Newcomb, as I told you, is on the mound. Struggled last year. Only had 45 batters that he faced. This year, he's already faced more batters at 63. In the grand scheme of things, that's not that many. ISO power number against very low, 056. Weighted on base percentage is high, though. 395 combined between lefties and righties. A 341 to lefties and a 409 to righties. But again, not a lot of power shots here, which means K-rate is okay, walking too many batters. And that's how you get some of those numbers popped up. Looking at the Tampa Bay Rays today, the brutal lineup, I got to be honest. Like, we don't have the actual starters, but Yandy Diaz has great statistical numbers. Jose Caballero has great statistical numbers. Everybody else is really bad in that lineup. So as I look for and say, what's that 1+1+1 market? Because understand this too, how it feeds off of things. You're looking overall and saying, you want the stacks in the lineup, where it's a pitcher that can be hit by multiple guys in the lineup, because in the 1+1+1 market, that you can ground up to 2+2, 3+3, you get the point. You want extra opportunities. Like, we don't want Yandy Diaz to be pitched around in the leadoff spot today for Tampa Bay, and Meade, Caminero, and Morel can't get them in. You see what I mean? So it's like, okay, I walk, but I can't score him. You want Yandy Diaz to walk at first base and have hammers behind him that are driving baseballs into the gap and driving him in so he can score runs to sort of get on that ticker and get you statistics. So Tampa Bay, and again, I'm just going to go through everything because I like to make sure I have all the keys to the kingdom right now. So I'm going to go Diaz for Tampa. And number 2, I'm going to go with Caballero. So I wrote those 2 guys down, both good statistics. Will I use them? I don't know. But those are the numbers I just want to eyeball test right off the bat. All right. So we're looking at that number just over 4. That was Sean Newcomb of Boston. Now we're going to take a look at Matthew Boyd of the Chicago Cubs. 159 ERA, which is really good through 17 innings, but a 422 XFIP number. Let's take a look at that Chicago Cubs game here on the card and sort of flow around. So let's see, where are we at? Where are you at, Chicago Cubs? That game is going to start 4:10 p.m. Eastern. Boyd versus Pivetta, who, by the way, Pivetta, one of the best pitchers on the card today, so we probably won't be looking at Chicago Cubs statistics per se, but we might want to take a look at San Diego. Minus 122 favorite, total listed at 7.5. Not a lot expected to be doing there. So that 4 o'clock start in San Diego, it's actually a 110 start local. 64 degrees, light wind blowing out to right field, so decent temperatures and a decent wind blowing out. If we're looking at Matthew Boyd, who last year threw 213 batters, was very good. This year, still technically good. Why? Because the XFIP is high. The other numbers aren't registering just yet. ISO power numbers, extremely low. Weighted on base percentage as a lefty, it's elevated against lefty batters, but you're going to see a majority of right-handed batters in the lineup today for the San Diego Padres. You look at the right-handed batters going up against Boyd, he's handled them fairly easily. Good K rate at that point, slightly high walk rate to righties. So as I look and say, okay, Arise, Machado, Iglesias might be a good one, it's really not worth my while to hit this game because I'm not getting those statistics matched up on both sides. So I'll leave that one here alone. Here we're going to have that method of elimination without outsmarting ourselves. Yesterday worked out where 21 batters actually fit the card. We'll see how many fit the card today in those stacks that we might be able to fit in. Just getting started here. We're going to go down each and every game we can get to, which includes the bad pitchers, right here on Moneyline on the SportsGrid Network.
This is the place.
This is where you'll get expert perspectives and sports gaming strategies 24/7.
And it's free.
Beat that, you cheap. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
NHL on Monday in the shootout, the Blackhawks beat the Canadiens 4-3. Chicago spoiled Montreal's bid to clinch a playoff spot for the third consecutive game. Montreal has 89 points, 4 more than Columbus, with 1 game left on Wednesday at home against the Hurricanes, while the Blue Jackets have 2 games remaining. The Kings shut out the Oilers 5-0. Adrian Kempe had a goal and 2 assists, helping the Kings officially clinch home ice against the Oilers in the first round of the playoffs. LA has victories in 7 of their last 8. The Calgary Flames are still chasing a playoff spot with 92 points. They're 2 behind St. Louis. The Blues hold the last wild card in the West, but have lost 3 in a row. The Flames have won 2 straight. St. Louis is home tonight against Utah, while the Flames play host to the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas can clinch the Pacific Division by earning at least a point tonight. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to make your life a little bit easier. Great. Now raise your other hand if you like to be comfortable. Perfect. Now that you have both hands raised, imagine putting on your shoes. And that, folks, right there is your answer to an easier, more comfortable life. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. This is footwear you don't need your hands to put on. They can be raised in the air, and you can just step it and go. Why don't you experience what people can't stop talking about? Life-changing Skechers Slip-ins. Get your Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
What up, fellow Gen Xers? Elizabeth Banks here. As the original Latchkey kids, we took things into our own hands, like house keys and video game controllers. And now it's time for us to do it again, because the recommended age to get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. We're at over 6 times greater risk compared to adults under 50. So go to vaxassist.com and schedule. Gen X, this is our shot. Sponsored by Pfizer.
If sports talk stations were buffets, we'd be the one with the line out the door where every night is rib night and you came alone because the crowd gives you a measure of cover so you won't get any grief for going back 9 times. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Right back at it. Let's continue down the list of handicapping today, and that's going to bring us to Bailey Falter of the Pittsburgh Pirates. A 7.20 ERA, which you love to see, but he does pitch better than that technically and analytically at 4.41 through 15 innings pitched. Now, Falter is a left-handed pitcher. Last year, 590 batters he's faced, 164 ISO, which is average. Same thing with the weighted on-base percentage. Not a big K-rate guy, which you do like. But if we looked at this season, 66 batters he's faced, he does have elevated numbers on ISO and weighted on base percentage to righties at 190 and 334. However, left-handed batters, who he's faced 17, have extra elevated numbers up to a 400 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 539. So if we look at Washington today, as I write down their numbers, James Wood, 22 at-bats, a 550 ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage of 545 right in that 2-hole. And also Alex Call, 11 at-bats in that leadoff spot there against left-handed pitching, a 421 weighted on base percentage. So we're going to go Call in that lineup. We're also going to go James Wood, the actor. Keibert Ruiz has decent statistics as well and a high weighted on base percentage. So why don't we go Ruiz as well? All right, so we got Ruiz in that lineup. Josh Bell a little bit further down, 200 and 313. And then Rosario has decent statistics. So looks like we have 3 guys as a possible play point tonight on the Nationals. That game coming in is roughly a pick'em. And also understand this, 48 degrees, which isn't very nice, but an 11-mile-an-hour wind blowing out to right field. So again, lefty batter getting around on a lefty. That ball can go the distance and get maybe a little bit of a push in that colder air temperatures. So that game could be something that we can use. Dean Kramer of the Baltimore Orioles through 14 and a third innings this year, guys, an 8 ERA and a 4.43 xFIP number. So if we look for Baltimore today, going up against Cleveland at 635 and focus on that side of the offense. Let's see what we got here. Kramer last year, decent statistics, average against lefties, very good against righties. That same sort of rhythm comes to fruition this year. 29 batters he faced from the right side, very good ISOs and very good weighted on base percentages against. Left-handed batters, different story. 333 ISO, 485 weighted on base percentage. So in this lineup, it's almost like a dream come true, by the way. Juan, Ramirez, Santana, Manzardo, Jones, Martinez, Naylor, and Rocchio are all lefties in the lineup today. So there you go. So not only do we have maybe a sneaky team total, you possibly could say, with Washington, I'll write that down, but it looks like we found one of our teams that we can certainly get down on today, and that's the Guardians. So we're going to go Quan, the top of that lineup. We're going to go J-Ram, who, again, this stack yesterday worked out very well. Carlos Santana. And if we go down to, you can go down that list even lower because they're all lefties, but not a lot of great numbers. Gabriel Arias does have good statistics, but the first three guys are definitely going to be there, and that is definitely going to be a team total. So I'm going to star that one right there. If we want to use in the regular market, maybe alt market, I think that does make a lot of sense. So going up against Dean Kramer on the road, Guardians, still chilly temperatures, 55 degrees, but more of a crosswind to a right field wind blowing out at 14 miles per hour. And just like the way those lefties set up at the top of the lineup, Quan can hit anybody, lefty and righty, but it's nice the fact that Ramirez and Santana are also switch hitters here. I think that makes a lot of sense. So those guys, that's a happy handicap right there for your boy DRS. All right. So we're through Falter, we're through Kramer. Festa's only got 4 innings pitched this year with Minnesota. Let me just swing over to that game quickly. They're a slight favorite, minus 122. All right. Going up against that Mets lineup, underwhelming at times yesterday, but did have some good numbers there with Soto and Peter. By the way, Pete Alonso's been on fire, man. One of my favorite players right now in Major League Baseball. Last year, Festa, 277 batters he faced. Slightly high ISO power number, slightly high weighted on base percentage, equal opportunity on both sides. So he wasn't great versus lefties or righties or terrible against either one of those. This season, slightly higher. Again, it's only 19 batters he's faced. 55 degrees, wind blowing in. It's almost like you want to go Soto and Alonso automatically, but let's play by the numbers here. Let's not do anything with that game. Just doesn't make some sense. Why? Because we just don't have enough information on Festa this season. German Marquez, Colorado Rockies, 15 2/3 innings pitched, a 4.60 ERA, and a 4.46 xFIP number. So if we take a look at the Colorado Rockies, who are certainly a bad baseball team, they're playing the Los Angeles Dodgers. And you know how everything looks good in the eyes if you are a Dodger backer. Last year, only 20 batters, very limited sample size. This year, 68 batters, very limited sample size, but he doesn't get hitters out per se with the strikeout. 12% to lefties, looks like 16% to righties. Last year, total outs through the 20 batters he faced, strikeout percentage, 15%. Now, I do look at the Dodgers, and I say to myself, a lot of these guys have really good statistics, as they typically will on a night-to-night basis. You want to just fade them with a stack at the top of the lineup, or you just want to keep it simple here? So I'm going to go Dodgers because I don't particularly love the matchup per se on an individual basis, just based on what German Marquez has done. But a Dodgers team total or an alt team total does make some sense. So we're going to use the Dodgers in some way, shape, or form as a capacity today to use. Okay, so we're making our way down the list. Steven Matz, St. Louis Cardinals, 11 2/3 innings pitched this year, low ERA of 2.31, but a higher xFIP number of 4.74. So if we go ahead and take a look to see what that game is going to play, it's not a night game. 1:15 start, going up against Houston, which yesterday we liked Houston on the money line. They were able to pick up a victory. Great pitching performance by Brown, as we thought would happen. Let's get to the Houston batters, and their lineup is in. Ugh. You heard that sort of what the heck is going on with the Houston Astros with left-handed pitching this year. Doesn't look at anywhere. And the shame of it is you're going to get all right-handed batters in the lineup today. 67 degrees with the wind blowing out at 4 miles per hour. Matt's last year struggled with right-handed batters. He's not doing that this year. We have an all-right lineup, but at the same time, Altuve, Pena, Paredes, Walker, Rogers, Myers, Smith, McCormick, all 0 ISO power number. Now, granted, they're only limited at bats, like 5 or less in most instances. Weighted on base percentage is low. That's almost one where you would take like that leap of faith play, but I don't want to do that today. So we're going to leave that game off of the board for the Houston Astros as a way of handicapping against that bad pitcher. All right, moving down the list again, Mitchell Parker of Washington. 1.96 ERA, 4.89 xFIP. Here's the issue. Washington goes up against Pittsburgh, just a brutal lineup, whereas you look at it, it's like, okay, maybe he comes back down to earth talking about Mitchell Parker. That lineup stinks as a whole, all the way up and down. I'm going to lay off that one. Osvaldo Bido, 15 innings pitched, a 3 ERA and a 4.96 xFIP number. So if we take a look at the Athletics, who had a party in Chicago yesterday, cold temperatures again today. 44 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour wind. The real feel is probably going to be in the 30s, and not a lot of good looks out of that lineup for Chicago. So usually you would say, like, okay, let's do this. Yesterday, I think the wind, even though it was chilly temperatures, was still blowing out in Chicago, which isn't going to be the case today at that point. Bryce Miller for Seattle, 16 innings pitched this year, a 4.50 ERA, matched up with a 4.96 xFIP number. So if we go up to the Pacific Northwest here, this game is going to be an afternoon game at 3:40 Pacific Coast time, 6:40 here on the East Coast. Seattle favored at -125. Looks like a total that's listed around 9. So if we get over to Seattle side, decent statistics here. Okay. All right. So wait a second. So we were going, hold on. We were looking at Bryce Miller. What am I looking at here on the other side? Why does this have my attention? Nick Martinez with that high ERA. Might be catching my attention the opposite way here. So let me take a look at, by the way, Cincinnati with Bryce Miller. Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, decent statistics here. Just trying to figure out how I can work that into the equation. ISO power numbers, we just want to fade going that way because theoretically you probably should take McClain and Ellie De La Cruz in this one. 57-degree temperatures, wind blowing out 6 miles per hour. I got to tell you, like I just see the name Nick Martinez on the opposite side in Seattle with a couple guys hammering the baseball against right-handed pitching. It's catching my attention just a little bit more right now, my guy Nick Martinez, even though he has a low xFIP number. Oh, decisions. Let's see what decisions we can make on Seattle here. We're going to make the wrong decision? I don't know. We might make a decision, that's for sure. We'll be right back.
Winning is not just beating the odds. It's the thing that keeps the wife smiling and your kids in respectful awe.
Oh, Father. Now cut that out.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
The St. Louis Blues have clinched the last wild card spot in the NHL's Western Conference. The Vegas Golden Knights clinched the Pacific Division last night despite falling in the shootout 5-4 on the road at Calgary. The Flames were chasing a playoff spot and did what they could, but were officially eliminated after the Blues beat Utah 6-1. Calgary could catch St. Louis in points, but the Blues have the tiebreaker. The Blue Jackets are still alive in the playoff race. They shut out the Flyers 3-0 last night. 5 straight wins for Columbus. 1 game remaining. They're 2 points behind Montreal, the owner of the last wild card in the East. The Canadiens are winless in 3. They close out the season at home tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes if they earn a point. Montreal clinches the wild card if they lose. And the Blue Jackets beat the Islanders in their final game of the season at home this Thursday. Columbus would earn the last wild card. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just 2 deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks. You know, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
Listen up, fellow Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos, fanny packs, even the World Wide Web. Let's do it again and get vaccinated because we're at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Gen X, this is our shot. Visit vaxassist.com and schedule a vaccine today. Sponsored by Pfizer.
You've heard of smart bombs,
Smartphones, smart cars, smart watches, and smart glasses.
Now you can add smart player.
Giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Trying to make decisions here, people. Decision time. I feel like I want to go with Seattle with Martinez. He did have a good year last year as well, which is tough. 570 batters he faced. His ISOs were really good. His strikeout numbers aren't very good. But this year, you know what? Don't do it. Don't do it, Donnie. Stay with the plan. Stay with the plan. I'm going to skip that game because I really want to jump in on Rodriguez, Polanco, Raleigh, and also Rosarena. I actually do. And it's going to hurt me tonight when I stay out of that game because I do think they might be in line to get a few runs in that one. Let's stick to the plan. That's always the goal right now. Jonathan Cannon, Chicago White Sox. 5.79 ERA, 5.23 xFIP number through 14 innings, which brings us back to one of our favorite teams there. That's the Athletics. Now, if we line their lineup up today, and again, this isn't like game 740, cold temperatures again. Those are the ones that are a little bit tough. Last year, Cannon did struggle with left-handed batters, was decent against righties. This year, decent against righties, really struggling with lefties. You know what? There's lefties in that lineup that makes some sense. So let's write it down. So Lawrence Butler, out of that leadoff spot, I'm going to write him down. 372 weighted on base percentage, low K rate, high walk rate, exactly what we want. Rooker doesn't have great stats, but he's a righty. Tyler Soderstrom, who's banging the heck out of the baseball right now. 2 bombs last night. His numbers are off the charts through 56 at-bats going up against right-handed pitching. So we're going to go with our guy Soder, put him right in the middle of that lineup. Now, here's the difference. We just keep it at the 2 at that point. Because there's no need, because I'm not parlaying tonight. I'm not parlaying players tonight. So we can go individuals, but you still want to be in that stack where Lawrence Butler walks and Soderstrom can drive him home. Those 2 guys, yeah, we're writing those down. We just need a little bit of help from around there. But Cannon should be able to get hit based on the statistics last year and what we see this year. Okay. Robbie Ray, San Francisco Giants. Here's a tough one. I'm always extra hard on my Phillies. They're favored by about minus 145 in this game. Low total 7.5. 52 degrees in Philadelphia today. Not all that warm. And a wind really blowing in from left field at 13 miles per hour. So the focus always is going to be on what's Robbie Ray doing? Because look at his statistics through 15 innings this year. He's got a 2.93 ERA, which is really good. But that xFIP number, high at 5.44. His expected ERA is a 6. 129 batters he faced last year. Lefties just crunch him last year. This year, it's righties getting the best out of him. But again, statistics do matter. Trey Turner, bad numbers against lefties this year. Bryce Harper, bad numbers. Kyle Schwarber, really good numbers. But again, Ray's been good against lefties, but bad against them last year with limited at-bats. Nick Castellanos might make the most sense here. And by the way, he's been, since that game on the 11th against the Cardinals, he went 1 for 4. The next game on the 12th, he went 3 for 4. Following game against the Cardinals, 0 for 3. Comes back home against the Giants, 2 for 3. And then last night, 1 for 4. Has a home run there in the mix. Has a couple of RBI. So I'm going to write down the Phillies because, again, no parlays needed. We're going to go Casty as a guy we have here. Now, there's other changes that I'm going to make here as we go back because you don't really need the overall statistics that are like, oh, man, we really got to knock away. Like, you take a team total in the Philadelphia Phillies, the way they're batting. Now, finally, they woke up last night. But Robbie Ray is one of those pitchers that could absolutely slay the Phillies or just pitch to his capabilities, which is really a 5+ xFIP. That could happen. Patrick Corbin, only 4 innings pitched, but you sort of extrapolate from last year on Patrick Corbin, right? He's a bad pitcher. It doesn't matter how many innings he's had. It seems like he's always going to be bad. The Angels, still in town, they are terrible against left-handed pitching as I look at the numbers and really good against righty. Look, Corbin Burns was horrible versus righties last year. Horrible versus righties this year. So you hear that, because you look at Taylor Ward, 9 at-bats against lefties, 0.99 weighted on base percentage. Rengifo, 240 weighted on base percentage. Mike Trout, 188. Jorge Soler, 115. Logan O'Hoppy's off the charts, and by the way, Kyron Paris is as well. What has Soler done the past couple games? Not much. Actually, you know what he has? He's a hit machine, by the way. 2 knocks last night, 2 knocks the night before, 0 for 3, then 1 for 3, 1 for 5, 1 for 3, 1 for 3. He's a hit machine, boys. You know what? LAA. We're going to take just because it's Patrick Corbin. Sometimes you got to fade the pitcher, as I like to say. Not great statistics. What's my guy Logan O'Hoppy been doing? Has he cooled off? Just want to take a look at the game logs. Now, 1 for 1 last night, so wants to pinch hit. 1 for 4 the night before, 0 for 4, 3 for 5, 0 for 4. He still has good numbers. RBI, though, hasn't had one since the 6th of the month. So that's a little deterrent right there, but his numbers are good for like base hits and what he can do. The problem is, can somebody behind him drive him in? Kyron Paris, who has good numbers also. Let's look at his game logs. Had a base knock last night, 0 for 3 the night before, 1 for 4, 2 for 3, 0 for 3, 2 for 4. A couple home runs, but it's been a while since he's had an RBI. Are we cooling off for the Angels at this point, or do we fire this one up? Because you could go Trout, and then say, like, hey, he hasn't been doing anything. This is his night to bounce back. You know what I mean? Taylor Ward, who I do like, if you just flip it over to all, hammering. Like, again, man, you just look at their numbers against right-handed pitching. It's off the charts just about for everybody. But to left-handed pitchers, it's not that great. But you do like the right-handed bats. Everybody in that lineup tonight, the Angels, will be a right-handed bat. Can they stack up is the question. Let me just see their most recent games here. Because I want my eyes to believe what my stomach is reading right now. I want to eat on this game. Shutout last night, 3 runs the night before, 4 the night before, 3 the night before that, 11, 4. So you had that surge. But since that surge of 11 runs, it's been 3, 4, 3, and 0. Sort of makes it tough to try to comprehend. CJ's asking, who's your favorite home or HRR play today? Trying to figure that out right now. We will all have it. Like, you follow me on Twitter at RightSideVP. We're going to be posting all of that stuff, whatever we like tonight. But I'm trying to figure out, I have to asterisk this game for Los Angeles. I really do. That's one for myself where I'm saying, all right, this team is hot. Patrick Corbin is a bad pitcher. Which way would you like to go? Now, he's the worst pitcher on the card, but again, he's only had 4 innings pitched this season so far. So it's not anything that you can really, really sink your teeth into. But some of those make sense. How's my guy Jorge? Again, just to review what he's been doing. Machine, man. Oh, decisions. We'll have a lot of them tonight. But by the way, the best decision looks like it's probably going to come from the Guardian, to be honest with you. Juan, J-Ram, Santana. We're living it. We'll be right back. Moneyline.
Get the SportsGrid mobile app and you'll never be alone. Take the latest episodes of your favorite shows with you anywhere. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The new SportsGrid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the SportsGrid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the SportsGrid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. That's 800-816-4492.
The Early Line.
The World Baseball Classic. If I am an owner of a Major League Baseball team, my player would never see that field. AAA players, AA players, single A players, collegiate players. Can I just start my Major League Baseball season without injuries and players being in camp so they're actually ready for the season itself? Enough of this. Let the college kids play. We'll be just fine.
It's The Early Line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You've searched,
and now you found it. A mostly peaceful oasis in the sports talk desert, where one multi-platform giant shines like a lighthouse on the calm ocean.
Nice metaphor.
That network is SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Yeah, right back at it here. Final segment of the day. We kick off a Major League Baseball Wednesday. Love it. By the way, there is NBA action tonight. 2-0 last night I went. Fantastic stuff here. NBA, I sort of switched the pick today, too. I do like the Bulls, even though if you are a line reader, you should be on the Miami Heat. I just think the Bulls are a better team at home just to win the game. I'll take that. But I was on the Kings all week long, and I sort of switched over today to the Dallas Mavericks getting the 4.5 points. Just seeing how close those games were. Like, not the games, I should say, because I had the Magic yesterday and the under in that game for Orlando. That won. Also had Memphis yesterday, who I liked with the 7 points in that game. That won. But I didn't necessarily love the Orlando Magic with the points itself. I actually liked the under more, and that one hit. But today I look at that price point and say, I just have to back the Bulls, and same thing with the Dallas Mavericks. You do have a good team in Sacramento at home, and that's going to make a difference. But I just see that 4.5, and I'm like, you know what? The world is aligning against the Dallas Mavericks. I think they got one game in them. I got one left in me, as they say right now. Just give me one game. Luka Doncic's gone. Anthony Davis is your guy, right? That's how you get after it. Nico Harrison and the general manager, he needs this win more than anything. Must-win situation for the Dallas Mavericks as it feels. Then we finally get under the playoffs starting this Saturday. Losers of these games finally go home today. The winners advance to play another round in this. And I was asking Ben Stevens on the early line this morning, what makes the most sense? Huh? What does make the most sense? Which way are you going to go? Do we need the 1 through 8s? Do we need the 1 through 10s? Do we need playing rounds in the NBA? I don't think. Even though we do, as in the content business, love more games that we get to talk about. Yes. But at the same time, yeah, I won my games yesterday. Bored out of my mind with the NBA. Like, I am so in love right now with Major League Baseball and the capabilities of day-to-day where you're on the testing grounds in April, tried and true theories that you used in the past, rolling them over to this year, playing into different markets. The 1+1+1 I do love, but boy, did I get stoned the past couple nights on everybody is eating, but one of my guys isn't doing anything. And the fact that they're getting multiple opportunities. It's one thing where it's like, hey, I just need a base hit and you're not getting it. It's another one. It's multiple guys on base repeatedly, and you just can't put a baseball in play. That's the way it's been. But today, again, just to recap, Tampa Bay, a couple players circled. Washington, a couple players circled. The Guardians, a couple players circled. The Dodgers team total circled. The A's, a couple players circled. That's Butler and Soderstrom. Philadelphia, Castillo circled. And the Angels have an asterisk against. Because it's just one of those, our numbers aren't good against lefties, but this lefty is so bad, we should have good numbers, if that makes sense. That's the way I'm looking at that game. But from a team total perspective, chances for a team total. Washington today, which I'm not in love with, I got to tell you, on a team total, but still think it might be okay. Cold weather. The Guardians, I really like the team total, which again, I don't know if I'm going to use that as a straight wager, an alternate to the higher wager to get plus money, or lower and use it as a parlay. Same thing with the Dodgers. But the A's have some capabilities. There are capabilities today. Are we going to get to 21 players on the card like we did yesterday? No, it doesn't look like we're going to do that. But that doesn't mean we can't have some fun. The numbers were there last night. We just couldn't play tic-tac-toe on a couple of guys, which means we're going to look to that market a little bit more to try to say, you know what? Back away from the parlays a little bit. Increase the odds market so you can bet those to the singular numbers, which means 2+2+2 market, 3+3+3 market. Like if I have an angle tonight that I probably want to play, it's the RBI market tonight, just with one. We're not going to get greedy with two. But I do think I want to play the 2+2+2 market and the 3+3+3 market. And just see if we can ride some of those ladders where a couple of those guys get 3+. And again, boy, if you want to take 6 or 7, it's got to be one night in the summer. It's like, you know, man, let's just take everybody to get like 8. And you cash 2 of them. Like this guy had 2 home runs and 3 RBI and scored 3 runs and 3 base hits on top of it. Oh, goodness, it could be so much fun to watch. It really can. But today, I think we have our foundation settled in. After, by the way, do we have a lot of afternoon action? Does it put up here? Strider, Atlanta, Toronto, no. Detroit and Milwaukee, nothing. Nothing on the Mets and Minnesota. It's a 1 o'clock game. Houston and St. Louis. Did I write anything down for that game? No, I didn't. So it looks like we're going to be digging a little bit later. Chicago Cubs, San Diego Padres, nothing on that. So it might really be a night slate for us tonight to take the afternoon off. So not a lot in the afternoon, but I'm going to formulate a plan. And once again, if you guys are listening in there at Right Side Deep, hey, you guys any action? Because I love it. Each night I get multiple guys sending me tickets. Hey, this one last night and this and that. I love to see that. Same thing with the chat box when it's popping out here. Questions that you have, questions answered, share your questions, share your plays with the people in the chat box. That's how we get down. And that's how we get business done right here on the network. Hopefully you enjoyed your time today on Moneyline. We used it wisely. Got through as many things as possible. Spelled out exactly the routine we're looking for tonight. Now we just have to sit back and execute it there. JP behind the wheels of the wheel. Johnny Right Side on a solo mission, which again, we'll be back tomorrow for another one on Thursday. See you then.
Ask any woman and she'll tell you all men are afraid of commitment.
Clearly, she's never met a SportsGrid listener.
They close out the season at home tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes if they earn a point. Montreal clinches the wild card if they lose. And the Blue Jackets beat the Islanders in their final game of the season at home this Thursday. Columbus would earn the last wild card. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just two deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks. You know, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
Listen up, fellow Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos, fanny packs, even the World Wide Web. Let's do it again and get vaccinated, because we're at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Gen X, this is our shot. Visit vaxassist.com and schedule a vaccine today. Sponsored by Pfizer.
How many SportsGrid listeners does it take to change a light bulb?
It takes 2. 1 to change the light bulb.
And 1 to see if our mobile app can provide the same amount of light.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It is FFC, just over a week away from the 2025 NFL Draft. Plenty of draft conversations today on Sirius XM Channel 159, all across the SportsGrid Radio Network. He is Scott Wetzel. I am Ben Stevens. A lot to dive into, Scott, over this next hour up until 1 p.m. Eastern Time. New betting markets available for the 2025 NFL Draft. More headlines to discuss. 8 days away from Green Bay in the opening round, a week from tomorrow. And, of course, NFL news and notes all around the National Football League, because when there is a marquee event on the calendar, we start to see those storylines and some of the headlines ramp up as well. Plenty to dive into here up until 1 p.m. Eastern, all across SportsGrid Radio.
Yeah, you got the debate with what's going to happen in the draft, and we're still waiting for Aaron Rodgers, which is going to, I guess, dictate what Pittsburgh might do in the draft. So the wait continues. Remember, I've had this conversation with Lisi and others. You know, it's okay. You know, I know people are fretting, but, you know, the drop dead line in the sand date for me always was the NFL draft. We're approaching that. I mean, they have to know sooner or later. But that to me really is the biggest thing, because if they don't sign Rodgers, I do believe they're going to move up in the draft.
Yeah, you would have to think, Scott, that they would look to attack a quarterback. We will talk about that in just a little bit. Let's start with some news around the National Football League. The Miami Dolphins may be going through a tumultuous offseason in terms of what is the actual path forward for 2025. GM Chris Greer, in a news conference on Tuesday afternoon, Scott, saying the Dolphins are exploring trade options. 4-star cornerback in Jalen Ramsey, who came to Miami, was supposed to be a big piece to help a defense led by Vic Fangio. Did not really amount to much. Not so much in Ramsey's own individual performance, just those heights for Miami. They will be exploring a trade for Jalen Ramsey. No trade conversation right now for Tyreek Hill. Scott, you are a Dolphins fan. Your Fins team kind of in this weird limbo area between being mediocre and a playoff contender of sorts entering 2025. What do you make of the path moving forward this offseason for Miami?
Yeah, it's not a good sign, Ben. First off, they're not going to be able to trade him. The dude's making $25 million next year. No one's picking that up. And even if there was some team crazy enough, Ben, to pick up that contract, that would be a $49 million plus cap hit for the Dolphins. Yeah. I mean, you talk about, it's not so much, okay, we want to trade a player away. That happens in the offseason. It's a bad sign. You know, over the last couple of seasons, the Dolphins were like a destination. That was the place to go. Teams that really, really want to win, what do? Right? They pick up veteran players like a Jalen Ramsey, sacrifice a 4th or 5th round draft choice because they want to win. Now it's like everyone's getting out of town. Tyreek Hill didn't end up getting traded, but that was the first domino. He announced, months ago that he wanted out, changed his mind, whatever. And now it's like the Dolphins are just cleaning house, showing the world that they're willing to rebuild and not hold on to these veteran players. And now no one wants to sign with the Dolphins. There was a point, like I said, in time where it was like, okay, we got Boy Wonder as their head coach. We got Tua. We got Tyreek Hill, Waddle. Everyone wanted to go there. Let's go get some veteran players. They did, and ended up it bombed out. So them trying to trade Jalen Ramsey, again, they're not going to be able to. But it's just a bad sign that the Dolphins are going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, Scott, I think it's a really good point. We'll see what the market is if there is one out there for the 30-year-old corner in Jalen Ramsey. A lot of financial investment, of course, into Ramsey as well. Throughout his 9-year NFL career, 7 times a Pro Bowler, not last year in 2024, but his first year in South Florida in 2023, a 3-time AP first-team All-Pro performer, but not during his days with the Dolphins. It was kind of a sign of the times, though. When you added a guy like Jalen Ramsey, you were bolstering that veteran experience to try to push you over the hump, to be a true conference contender, to win a division. Scott, frankly, to win a playoff game, something the Fins have failed to do since the year 2000. Now going on 25 seasons since Miami last won a playoff game. It's about to be year number 4 under Mike McDaniel. In the previous 3, the Dolphins have appeared in the postseason twice. Each of the first 2 years, McDaniel was in South Florida. But after missing the playoffs a season ago, Scott, and of course with the investment into Tua Tagovailoa, the investment into the wide receiver position for both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, not seeing the results is concerning. And for me, I think you see it in what the odds makers expect for Miami entering 2025. Win total for the Dolphins, 8.5, and the under has the juice. If they're an 8-9 team, maybe even a 9-8 team, Scott, there's no guarantee this Dolphins team will be a playoff team come the end of 2025's campaign.
Yeah, I don't think they will, Ben. This might be the last year for Boy Wonder Jr., who finally the national media is finally kind of caught on to what Dolphin fans have been yelling and screaming about for the last 2 seasons. They don't beat good teams. They just don't. He doesn't do anything, the head coach, to elevate the club. They have an absolutely lousy record without Tua playing. And then even with Tua playing, they're 3-15, something goofy like that. I'd have to look it up. I know we mentioned it many times. Against winning teams. They don't beat anybody on the road. They're just not that good. So if they couldn't really perform when they had everyone healthy, now here we are 2-3 years later. I don't think they get to 8 wins. And I'm not a pessimistic Dolphin fan. I'm a realistic Dolphin fan. I don't see it. I just, like I said, I think they're going in the wrong direction. And if that's the case, maybe they get rid of Tua after this year. I think they certainly get rid of McDaniel after this year and just start all over again.
Yeah, of course, the big contract for Tua Tagovailoa around this point last offseason, north of $53 million. Yeah. Mike McDaniel does have a winning record in his 3 years as an NFL head coach, 28-23, 9-8 his first year. Of course, 11 wins in 2023, but that very cold playoff game in KC, and the Dolphins did not look very good against the Chiefs. Sub 500 last year at 8-9. Scott, I'm not entirely sure what the record is against teams with a winning record for Mike McDaniel in his 3 seasons leading the Fins. I do know what the number is booked as an underdog straight up in those 23 games. As a dog the last 3 years under McDaniel, you would assume most, if not all, coming against teams above 500. 5-18 straight up. Still the same kind of idea. When the Dolphins have not been expected to win, or when there is a challenge on the other side, can you beat the best of the best? Can you rise to the occasion? Miami has faltered. 5-18 outright in 23 games as an underdog in 3 seasons under McDaniel.
Yeah. I got some numbers. As a road underdog, like you're talking about, a chance for you to kind of step up. Dolphins 3-19. In 22 games, they've won 3 as an underdog on the road. How about overall? All right. Against winning teams for Mike McDaniel, 5-20. Against losing teams, 25-11. So the clear demarcation line is in the sand. They just don't beat good teams. They just have it under him. On paper, boy, it all made sense, man. Get Waddle, you get Tyreek Hill, you got a decent backfield, you got a quarterback, when he's been healthy, okay, but it just hasn't materialized for them. Those are all 3-19 as a road underdog, and then even throw that out, even against winning teams, even at home, 5-20, really? And people talk about this Dolphin team like they were the greatest things in the world, like they were going to challenge for a Super Bowl. It just hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't, Scott. And then you're kind of in that weird limbo gray area of an 8-9 or 9-8 season, but missing out on the playoffs. You're not exactly in a spot to really get a top draft pick to change the future of your franchise. You're not bottoming out, but you're not really contending. It's a weird limbo gray area that Dolphins fans don't really want to be in. We will see if Chris Grier can make a trade happen for Jalen Ramsey before the NFL draft in just over a week. Do not believe it will result in a first-rounder to add to what Miami has. The Dolphins at this moment, Scott, draft 13th overall, and the odds for what Miami might try to do, first position drafted of their first drafted player, offensive lineman, trying to protect Tua Tagovailoa, is the favorite price at plus 135. Plenty more conversations coming your way up next here on Football Full Circle, just 8 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. And we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin.
He just gives that vibe.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. Former U.S. Representative Mayra Flores of Texas launched a bid to unseat Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar in 2026, followed by her campaign announcing just hours later on social media that she had been hospitalized, but no further details. Flores was the first Mexican-born congresswoman in the U.S. House after winning a 2022 special election, but lost her bid for a full term. Burglars tunneled through concrete wall to gain access to a Los Angeles jewelry store, making off with at least $10 million worth of merchandise. The heist happened around 9:30 p.m. Sunday at Love Jewels on Broadway in the heart of downtown's jewelry district. The search was suspended this week for 5 people missing after a boat capsized during a failed suspected smuggling venture off of Florida's Atlantic coast. On Sunday, Coast Guard crews rescued 4 people from the ocean some 29 miles off St. Lucie Inlet, which is 46 miles north of West Palm Beach. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
There's something you should know and always remember.
SportsGrid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
go find a horseshoe.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. We are 8 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft, and Scott, a lot of attention will be paid to Green Bay over these next 7 or 8 days. Not the Packers necessarily, but the site outside of Lambeau Field for the 2025 NFL Draft. And still a ton of conversation about what is going to happen early in the 2025 NFL Draft and its opening round a week from tomorrow. Not necessarily at number 1 overall. And Scott, if you're not looking at the draft odds nearly as much, which features Cam Ward as a minus 20,000 favorite to be that first overall pick made by the Tennessee Titans, last night Cam Ward was playing Fortnite, a video game. He was on the headset chopping it up with people who were asking him some questions, including who do you consider the best wide receivers in the NFL? The guy that Cam Ward listed as number one, Calvin Ridley, who plays where? In Tennessee. Rounding out his top four, Traylon Burks, who was a first-round pick for the Titans a few years ago that frankly hasn't done much during his National Football League career. All right, Cam, how about your top running backs around the NFL? Two of his top four, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, who both, of course, play for this Titans organization. It does appear as though Cam Ward, Scott, understands where his bread is about to be buttered in just over a week's time.
Yeah, and think about the odds for a second, Ben. This reminds me of a story, 5 years ago, whatever it was, with Trevor Lawrence. I remember doing a show. We were fiddling around with the numbers, right? And FanDuel at the time had numbers, because I was in Jersey at the time, listing Trevor Lawrence to be the overall number one favorite at 10-1. And I said, there's no way he's not going number one. There was never any debate at all. This is not even like Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders or anyone else. I mean, it was just a foregone conclusion. And I'm thinking to myself, man, maybe I should take 10 G's out of the bank account, put a bet on it and walk away 5 days later with an easy $1,000, right? But long story short, I didn't have the courage to do that. And as the days went by, and there was only like 5 days before the draft when I saw it, but he went from 10-1 to like 25-1. Someone must have been falling asleep at the wheel at FanDuel, right? So I bring that story up just because how is Cam Ward not going to be the number one overall pick? So if he's 20-1, I don't know about $20,000, but we'll just use that because it's a nice, easy, fat number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the easiest $1,000 you'll ever make, right? Take $20,000 out of your lifetime savings account, put it on him to go number one, and in a couple of days, you'll walk out of there with an extra $1,000. I don't know if anyone has the courage to do that. And him talking about all these Tennessee Titan wide receivers, right? There's no way in the world he's not being taken number one, right? But do you have the stomach to lay 20-1? That's the question.
Yeah, and Scott, you're right. There have been some quarterbacks like that. Trevor Lawrence in 2021, Caleb Williams last year in 2024, even in other sports. Victor Wembanyama to go first overall to the Spurs. Right. Connor Bedard to go first overall to the Blackhawks. Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers to go first overall in the WNBA drafts the past few seasons. But Cam Ward did not start at minus 2,000 and work his way up to minus 20,000 as we got ready for the NFL Combine in late February with some conversation around Abdul Carter. The Titans had new management led by new GM Mike Borgonzi. He was interested in fielding phone calls for that first overall pick. Cam Ward was around a minus 135 favorite. That's it. If you bet the number then, congrats to you. Now at minus 20,000, a very chalky price. Speaking of Abdul Carter, Scott, and some others, some conversation yesterday around Travis Hunter, who was asked about what he has heard from NFL teams and what they have told him about where he will slot in position-wise during his NFL career. What if a team told you, Travis, we want you to focus only on one side of the football? Travis Hunter's response? Then I might not be playing football. He would walk away from the sport rather than just focus on one side. We'll see exactly how true that is. But, Scott, right now it seems as though that is the conversation the Cleveland Browns must have with Travis Hunter. He's a minus 310 favorite to be the second overall pick 8 days from now. What did you make of Hunter's comments about what position he will play for a multitude of positions in the NFL?
Yeah, listen, first off, there's no way in the world he's walking away, right? He may be unhappy. He may be ticked off. He may be upset. He may be all those things. But is he going to walk away from an NFL career because he can't have two of something that he can have one of? I mean, that would be pretty stupid, right? I mean, you're going to give up millions and millions of dollars to go work, overnights at 7-Eleven? So that's not happening. I had this conversation with Lisa the other day when we were hosting together. Sooner or later, his agent is going to get to him and saying, what are you doing, guy? You're locked in. You're not going to make a dime more literally by playing both offense and defense over the first 5 years of your NFL career than you will if you just played one of the two. So there's no way in the world I'm going to let you go out there and play both offense and defense because if so, then we won two contracts and you're not getting two contracts. So, it's like Ohtani pitching and hitting, right? You could pay him extra in baseball, and eventually you could pay him extra, Hunter, in the NFL, but not the first 5 years. You're locked in. So he's not playing. Could he be like a Deebo Samuel? And listen, how long did that last, right? Before Deebo finally said, I don't want to play running back anymore. Sorry. So, could it go for a little while? Could you utilize him in some spots? It seems to be that, defense is his real spot that he's going to play every day, and offense would be the one. Maybe they could flip it and use him as a nickel back. I don't doubt that, but to think he's going to play every single game and every single, down on every single game and both offense and defense, that's silly. It's just, like I said, even if his body could hold up and the whole thing, the agent would step in and say, no, man, we're not doing this. You're giving them twice of what they're getting from you.
And I don't necessarily believe, Scott, that an NFL team would want him to do so. Physical harm, obviously the health in all of that. I also just personally believe Travis Hunter is a really good wide receiver. He's not the second overall pick because of his wide receiver skill. It's more on the other side of the football where he is an elite lockdown cornerback that you would consider him top 2, top 3, top 5. I think that will be the focus. Now, does that mean he should not have the ball in his hands at times, being the outstanding playmaker and Heisman winner that he is? No, I do think there will be some offensive sets, some offensive schemes, some play calls that feature Travis Hunter offensively, not just for a good majority of those offensive plays. We'll talk about that and plenty more around the NFL draft on the other side of the break on Football Full Circle.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1929, the New York Yankees become the first major league team to permanently feature numbers on the backs of uniforms. Numbers corresponded to a position in the batting order. And in 1983, Steve Garvey set the NL record by playing in his 1,118th consecutive game.
Steve Garvey has given the Dodgers a 3-1 lead.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Polymer scientists at the American Chemical Society have invented a molecular hydrophilic coating for golf balls so that when you putt, slows the speed of the ball on lightning-fast bone-dry greens and speeds it up on wet, slow greens, making your game more predictable. Totally legal, complies with all USDA rules. Won't cure your slice because there's no aerodynamic effect. And no matter how technologically advanced your hydrophilic golf ball is, it will not solve this problem. Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
The World Baseball Classic. If I am an owner of a Major League Baseball team, my player would never see that field. AAA players, AA players, single A players, collegiate players. Can I just start my Major League Baseball season without injuries and players being in camp so they're actually ready for the season itself? Enough of this. Let the college kids play. We'll be just fine.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It is FFC. So, Scott, as we go around the 2025 NFL Draft, of course, there is a lot of conversation about what is going to happen after the Titans more than likely select Cam Ward first overall. And, of course, anytime you are having conversations about what might happen early in the draft, quarterbacks are going to be a huge component of that conversation. Yesterday on FFC, we shared the Giants were flying into Boulder on Thursday for one private workout, one final private workout with Colorado quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. His CU teammate, Travis Hunter, is a minus 310 favorite to go second overall. Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter is a minus 240 favorite to go third overall. that is the pick the New York Giants have at this moment. We also heard from draft guru Todd McShay yesterday that from what he is hearing around his league sources, obviously in a draft cycle known for its lies and its smokescreens, that the Giants have not closed the book just yet on drafting Shedeur Sanders with that third overall pick, despite the fact that Abdul Carter is a minus money favorite. And, of course, they signed both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston earlier this offseason. Shedeur Sanders is not the favorite to be that third overall selection, Scott. His price has gotten just a little bit shorter over the past 48 hours. What do you think the Giants ultimately do with that third overall pick?
Yeah, ultimately, I think they do take Sanders. This is going to be my last gasp, have faith that the Giants know what they're doing, even though I really have my doubts about that, right? But it's all a game, right? It's like poker. It really is. I'm a little surprised the Giants made another visit yesterday because, Ben, the last thing the Giants want to do, if you're sold on the Browns not drafting him now, the last thing the Giants want to do at number 3 is tell the NFL world we are going to draft him. Because if someone does like Sanders and they know, okay, the Giants are definitely going to draft him, what are they going to do? They're going to call up the Browns and make the Browns a can't-lose offer. So it doesn't make sense for the Giants to be making all these overtures to Shedeur Sanders right now. I mean, we're a week away from the draft. If you don't know who you're taking at this point when you draft that high, then you're clueless. So right. I still think they're going to take him. I still think the Browns should take him, to tell you the truth. But sure. it doesn't appear that's going to be the case. I mean, we talked about this before, Ben. It's not easy having the first, second, or third worst record in the NFL. When you look at these schedules that these teams have, it's like you have to lose every single one of these 50-50 games. It sounds easy to say, oh, yeah, team stinks, they're going to be 3-14, right? But when you play other teams, when the Giants play Tennessee, and Tennessee plays, Cleveland, and Cleveland plays the Giants, someone's got to win. So it's hard to be in that spot. And they have a chance to get themselves maybe a franchise quarterback. I just can't believe the Browns or the Giants wouldn't pass on that. So if the Browns do, I'm the Giants. I'm taking Shedeur Sanders. And like I said, this will be the last time I'll have faith that they think they know what they're doing. Because if they don't take him, I don't care who they take. I don't care if Lawrence Taylor is on the board, Ben. They need a quarterback. They got to get away from the stench of Danny Nichols, and the head coach and GM's jobs are on the line. And if they go 500 with either Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson, they're not going to be head coach and GM next year.
Yeah, that's for sure, Scott. Also, the New York Giants are planning to get one final look, whatever that means, at Jalen Milroe and Louisville's Tyler Shuck. The Giants do have the second overall pick in the second round, number 34 overall. We know Milroe is going to attend the NFL draft next week in Green Bay. One of 17 attendees. Scott, both the league and players, their reps, and their families don't love to show up to the NFL draft, to be in the green room with the cameras and the focus and the national attention, unless they are going to hear their names called very early. I still find that fascinating that Jalen Milroe is even in consideration for a first-round pick, if that is going to be the case. But, Scott, I think you hit the nail on the head with the New York Giants and overall just the NFL. Again, things seem rather simple at the end of the NFL season. Titans, Browns, Giants in that order. In a quarterback draft class that maybe we see 3 or 4 guys go in the first round. I think that would be far too many, but at least Scott, with 2 quarterbacks we considered top 5, top 10 talents in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders in some form or fashion. And yet, the Titans at 1 are going to take Cam Ward, and the 2 quarterback-needy teams in the Browns and the Giants, who we thought would be in the running for sure to take a quarterback, seemingly not going to unless the Giants pull off a surprise with that third overall pick. I don't think it's overly surprising to draft Shedeur Sanders even in that spot, Scott. It's surprising based on what the Giants have already done this offseason in getting Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. More on that, what it means for the G-Men and their 2025 outlook, up next on FSC.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
NBA play-in round action tonight, 9 versus 10. The Bulls play host to the Heat. The losing team is eliminated. The winning team moves on to face the Orlando Magic this Friday, and the winner of that game advances to face the top-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. Last night, the Magic beat the Hawks 120-95. Tonight in the West, the Sacramento Kings host the Dallas Mavericks. The winner moves on to face the Memphis Grizzlies this Friday for the 8th seed and first-round matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Warriors beat the Grizzlies 121-116 last night to lock up the 7th seed. Major League Baseball, the Cubs beat the Padres 2-1 in 10 innings, handing the Padres their first loss at home this season. They dropped to 11-1 at Petco Park. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Find what you love and love what you find. A Total Wine and More, the place to go for sipping rosés with seltzers on ice, making margaritas with your favorite tequilas. It's warm out, let's go. Our prices are low on spirits, beer, and wine. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. B21.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppables, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
You're listening to Sports Grid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Now, I'm not going to say it's not discussed or under the radar, but one of the things that I find fascinating for what the New York Giants ultimately decide to do with the 3rd overall pick in next week's NFL draft is the idea, Scott, that we have a New York Giants team that, as of this moment, has a win total of 5.5, hefty juice on the under, technically the lowest and worst win total of any of our 32 NFL franchises for the 2025 NFL season. And what that means, of course, for the future, not just of the organization, but head coach Brian Daboll and GM Joe Schoen. I think, Scott, if the Giants, who have already signed both Russell Wilson, presumably making him the starting quarterback for 2025, and Jameis Winston this offseason, you've kind of figured out your quarterbacks for the here and now. But, of course, when you have the 3rd overall pick and the opportunity, perhaps, to draft Shedeur Sanders, you are planning for the future and the hopeful face of the franchise for many years to come. Scott, when you're Daboll and Shane, maybe you can get by with Russell Wilson, be better than expectation, maybe win 7, 8, 9 games. But unless it's a truly successful season in New York, are Daboll and Shane around to focus on 2026 and beyond to maybe get the quarterback of the future then, if you pass on doing so in that 3rd overall spot? Again, I think it is a fascinating dichotomy because I think the overall idea is the Giants aren't going to take a quarterback at number 3 overall and kick the can down the road. But it's down the road where their head coach and their GM right now might not be there next year.
Yeah, that kicking down the can will include Daboll, inside one of those cans and Shane inside one of those cans, right? That's why I said earlier, if you go 7, 8 wins, 6, 7, 8 wins, with the combination of Winston and Russell Wilson, there's no way. There's just no way these guys are coming back, right? But if you go 6, 7, 8 wins with Shedeur Sanders and he shows you a little something and you're building a little something, then I think absolutely, okay, you know what? We got something here. Why take these guys out and then throw Sanders a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach and everything else? They definitely keep their job. That's why I hear people say, well, they're worried about their job situation. Okay. And that's why they're going to bring in Russell Wilson because they want to win some games. It's like, no, that's the wrong way. Unless you get to the postseason, you're not going to save your job by going 500 with Russell Wilson, but you certainly will with Shedeur Sanders because you have the quarterback of the future in place. So, that all said, Ben, I do like the over 5.5. I must say from a betting standpoint, just because we poke fun at Wilson and Winston, but they are, somewhat capable quarterbacks here. Certainly a lot better than what they had last season with Drew Lock and everything, who's still, by the way, a free agent. So I think they can get 6 wins. I mean, I don't think they're going to compete for any championship or any playoff spot, but 6-11? Can they go 6-11? I would think so.
Yeah, maybe so. And I still think, Scott, the ironic part of that is 6-11 probably results in a change to the head coach and the general manager as well. Yeah, with where things are for the G-Men. I really find that the fascinating component of what the Giants ultimately decide to do next week. Now, I don't think, as the odds makers have it, that Shedeur Sanders will go 3rd overall. We'll talk about where he might be slotted in just a moment. There is an argument to be made, though, Scott. Let's say the odds do track. The Giants draft Abdul Carter. There is some kind of conversation that Kayvon Thibodeau, who they drafted early in the first round a few years back, might be on the move this offseason. But a Giants D-line, at least to start last year, that was incredibly productive. With Thibodeau and the man in the middle, more than most, Dexter Lawrence. You add Abdul Carter, who I think might be the best overall talent in this NFL draft. If they can shore up the defense, they get enough out of Russell Wilson offensively. Tyrone Tracy was great last year in his rookie campaign. Of course, Malik Neighbors was sensational as well. That could be a 6 or 7 win team. NFC East, not going to be easy. The schedule for the 4 teams in that division, again, not exactly the most comfortable of rides. But yeah, 6 or 7 wins, not out of the realm of possibility. Just probably not enough to keep Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen around, as Giants fans might be happy with entering 2026.
Yeah, and then you start the process all over again. A little conspiracy buzz out there that the Giants are sitting and waiting for Arch Manning. But I told Giant fans, it's not like Arch played great last year when he did play. He did play some, good enough, but it's not like, he was throwing the football all over the place. That he had, instant stardom written all over him. But there's a little buzz about, the Eli stuff with Arch's grandson and everything, or his nephew rather, coming in. But I just, what is 6 wins? What is 7 wins, 8 wins going to get you, even if they got to that number? Outside of you cashing your bet, but it's just like, man, you just think back, Ben. I know it's old news, but you think back and just lose to the Colts, and you have the number 1 overall pick, and this whole situation is gone. I just don't understand why the owner, and I'm going to put it mostly on him, didn't go to the GM Shane and say, listen, you know what? I've decided you guys are all coming back. I'm buying in 1 more year. So do what's necessary to get the number 1 overall pick that we're sitting in right now with 2 games left. Just do what's necessary. And then Shane goes to Daboll. Hey, listen, you know what? Mara has said we're coming back. We're sitting in the number 1 spot, coach. So let's do what's necessary. 3rd and 10. Let's run the ball. 4th and 1 for the opposing team's 40-yard line. Let's punt. There are players aren't going to try and lose. Don't get me wrong. But the coaches can make sure that you're going to lose that football game by the plays you call, the things you do. Man, what did they get to, Ben? What did a 1 lousy win with 2 games left get them outside of blowing the number 1 overall pick? I'll never understand that.
Yeah, I will never either, Scott, which also speaks to the point that the idea is, whether it's Daboll and Shane making the call or whoever it could be next year in New York, that if the Giants kick the can down the road, they go 5-12, they end up with another top 5 pick. Sure, that's all well and good. There's no guarantee you're in that perfect and prime spot to draft a quarterback, especially if the Giants end up going 7-10. All right, what good was it this year to have a new GM, a new head coach, a mediocre record, and not be in a great spot to draft a quarterback? It is not as easy to tank and just be like, we are for sure going to be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes as some might think, Scott, as you alluded to. Again, all of that context, I think, is very important, not just for the Giants, but every team we will see draft next week. What is your plan? Are you an immediate contender? Are you in the middle of the road trying to add a bunch of pieces that might help next year but really get you over the finish line in 2 to 3 seasons? Are you trying to drastically alter the future of your franchise in one night, in one weekend, in one draft in Green Bay? All of that very important, Scott.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. That's why I don't think, people are talking about the Saints maybe drafting Sanders at number 9. I don't think he'll last that long. I really don't. Yeah. Whether it's the Giants or the Browns or anyone else, if the Browns and Giants don't draft him, then I could see another team then reaching up, calling up the Patriots, who don't need a quarterback, obviously, with Drake May. I think there would be a team that would trade up and go get him versus the Saints. And maybe it's the Saints, rather than think he's going to slide down the draft board at number 9 or even further. I'd be real surprised with that. I don't know how you feel about him, Ben, because I know you love college football and watch it as much as anybody. I like the guy. I think he's going to be as good as anyone, whether it's C.J. Stroud or Jalen Daniels. Whether it's going to happen the first year or not, who knows? Those are flukes. But as far as being like an NFL quarterback, the way the NFL rules are set up with scrambling, I think he's going to be very good in the NFL. I don't know what the deal is with him. I don't know what the big knock is on him.
Yeah, Scott, I thought a lot of the same, right? That at the end of both the college and NFL season, we had 2 prime quarterbacks to go in the first round, 2 top 10, top 5 talents, and they would go 1-2, regardless if you like Shedeur Sanders more or Cam Ward more, that in some form or fashion, especially the teams drafting that early on, it would be Ward and Sanders. There's been some conversation about Shedeur's bravado. You want confidence in the quarterback spot. There hasn't been all that much conversation about Deion's role in any of this, as there was earlier on in Shedeur Sanders' college career, that he would be particular about which situations and which cities and teams he would play with. That's not really the story anymore. Beats me, Scott, and where exactly Shedeur Sanders ends up, that I think is still a conversation. We'll talk about the Saints at 9th overall in an interesting situation on FFC next.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie.
Just saying.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. The search was suspended this week for 5 people missing after a boat capsized during a failed suspected smuggling venture off of Florida's Atlantic coast. On Sunday, Coast Guard crews rescued 4 people from the ocean some 29 miles off St. Lucie Inlet, which is 46 miles north of West Palm Beach. Former U.S. Representative Myra Flores of Texas launched a bid to unseat Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar in 2026, followed by her campaign announcing just hours later on social media that she had been hospitalized but no further details. Flores was the first Mexican-born congresswoman in the U.S. House after winning a 2022 special election but lost her bid for a full term. Burglars tunneled through concrete wall to gain access to a Los Angeles jewelry store, making off with at least $10 million worth of merchandise. The heist happened around 9:30 p.m. Sunday at Love Jewels on Broadway in the heart of downtown's jewelry district. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 5/19/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store single line activation on qualifying plan. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-Ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as Slip-Ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-Ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-Ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Will Shedeur Sanders go 3rd overall? Might he drop a little bit deeper into the top 10 to number 9 with the New Orleans Saints? Scott, it really did not seem as though the Saints would be the front runner to draft Shedeur Sanders, at least based on the odds, until a report from right before the weekend came out that Derek Carr, who did not really deal with a shoulder injury last year, had a lingering shoulder issue that was putting his 2025 status in New Orleans up in the air and making it slightly uncertain. Of course, it is a new era in the Big Easy. First-year head coach Kellen Moore takes the reins as the head man of the Saints. But with the conversation around Derek Carr and maybe Shedeur Sanders falling out of the top 3, that most likely landing spot, as the odds makers see it, at a plus 125 price, the shortest number to draft Shedeur Sanders, that would be New Orleans. Now, I know you think the Giants ultimately will draft Shedeur Sanders with the 3rd overall pick. If not, Scott, do you think he slots in at number 9 to the Saints?
I do and I don't. I don't think he'll drop Ben to 9. I just don't. Now, you have a number of teams ahead of the Saints that, more than likely won't be taking a quarterback unless something crazy happens, right? New England's not, Jacksonville's not. Could the Raiders? They just really re-up with Geno Smith, so I don't think so. Jets and Carolina, probably not if the Jets really believe in Justin Fields like it apparently seems they do. So, theoretically, yes. You know what? Boom. They're the New Orleans Saints. But as I said earlier, I can't believe one of the other teams, whether it's Pittsburgh or whether, pick another club that, needs a quarterback, whether it's the Rams, who clearly told Matthew Stafford, you know what, go shop yourself around. They're clearly sending signals that they're looking to move on. So I do believe one of those teams will jump up, and it's up to the Saints. I think really, Ben, the worst thing that could have happened for the Saints was the Derek Carr news. Because I was a little surprised they were going to head into this season with Derek Carr as their quarterback, as badly as he's played. It just hasn't gotten done. But they were kind of lying in the weeds a little bit. No one was really talking about them so much. Now the Carr injury certainly throws the Saints into the conversation of drafting a quarterback, whereas they might have been just saying, all right, no one's talking about us drafting, so we don't have to worry about too many teams going ahead of us. Now, clearly, the Bulls, the Bulls mark is on them, right? Bullseye is on them. Thank you very much. The Bullseye is on them at 9. So if one of those other teams that I mentioned, wants Sanders, they're going to trade up. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to trade up. So the answer to your question is, will the Saints be that team? Will the Saints play poker and hold firm and just say, you know what, I'll take my chances, no one trades up? Or when, New England calls them and Jacksonville calls them and the Raiders call them and they ask for a first-round draft choice from next year, I wouldn't fool around. I would do it. Even though maybe losing hand, I would pay the extra first-round draft choice next year and make sure I got my guy. I wouldn't take the chance.
Yeah, a little bit of movement, Scott, in those odds. Plus 130 for the Saints, still the shortest number. Plus 370 for the Giants. By the way, Shedeur is plus 420 to go 3rd overall. And then plus 460 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, when I was in New Jersey 2 weekends ago, I bet the Steelers to be the team to draft Shedeur Sanders, either if he fell or Pittsburgh making their way up the draft board. And again, I do think the Steelers are going to be very interested in doing such a thing. Scott, for New Orleans, I think it is fascinating, the conversation around Derek Carr. An issue that wasn't the reason that Carr only played about 10 games last season. That was a hand injury and an oblique injury. The shoulder strain and AC joint sprain dates back to the 2023 season. But obviously is plaguing him enough. It is a part of the conversation. Scott, I think we've done a good job highlighting the teams at some point this offseason that have or have had a quarterback question to answer. The Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, the Saints, and the Steelers. And most of those teams are either in a spot in the NFL draft to address that question. The Tennessee Titans with Cam Ward have addressed it through free agency or a draft. We think the Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, of course, or they've made some moves, the Cleveland Browns, and they don't seem as though they're going to change it in terms of what they are doing at the quarterback spot early in the NFL draft. And that kind of just leaves the Saints and the Steelers. And Scott, Kellen Moore, when he was introduced as the Saints' new head coach, kind of put some water on the idea that Derek Carr is the quarterback in 2025 and beyond. And then a few weeks after that, the Saints were like, nope, Derek Carr is our guy for 2025. We're keeping him here. We're not cutting him. We're not looking to trade him. Not sure what his market value would be. He's our quarterback, which really just left the Steelers. And as they wait perhaps for what Aaron Rodgers decides to do. But Scott, for the Saints, they didn't really have to make a move this offseason. The reason I would be shocked if the Giants drafted Shedeur Sanders is It's because they signed both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Why do that? To just draft your guy. The Saints did not extend Derek Carr this offseason or even last offseason. Now they are tied to him financially through 2026. But Scott, if they're looking to shape their future with a first-year head coach in Kellen Moore, it would make some logistical sense to draft your future quarterback in the top 10 if he's there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll throw two more teams real quickly at you. One a little less than the other, but San Francisco. Listen, they hit a home run, drafted Brock Purdy with the last overall pick, and they've been able to benefit over the last 3 seasons, giving out all these crazy contracts. Could they say, well, if Shedeur Sanders comes our way, we can start that process all over again? And then the other one, which I think is a little bit more realistic, Indianapolis Colts. Clearly, they're not sold on Anthony Richardson anymore, right? You bring in Danny Nichols, you can really see that whole quarterback situation really just blow up and have the Colts just say, you know what, we got a chance to start all over again with Shedeur Sanders. So there's a couple more, but it makes sense with the Saints. And that's why I said, Ben, I would do it. Listen, it stinks. It's awful. It's not right, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going to take a chance at 9 that one of those 5 other teams, if it gets past the Giants, right? That's the line in the sand. Once it gets past the Giants, then that's when all the bells and whistles start to roll. I'm not going to take a chance that one of those 4 or 5 other teams is not going to make a trade with the Colts or the Steelers or the Rams or whoever. I'm going to make the trade. You want an extra first-round pick next year? Knock yourself out. I got my quarterback of the future.
Yeah, and Scott, you're not wrong in that. We haven't seen any movement yet. All 32 NFL teams still have their original first-round pick 8 days away from the draft. But that doesn't mean there isn't movement to come. We'll talk about the teams drafting 4th and 5th, Scott, if we do see movement early inside the top 5 next.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi. Then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
So, Scott, you've put the line of demarcation, and I think correctly so, at number 3 overall after the New York Giants draft for next week's 2025 NFL Draft in its opening round. Drafting 4th, the New England Patriots. Drafting 5th, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Two first-time head coaches in those spots. Mike Vrabel, of course, 6 years in Tennessee, but his debut year back with his former club in the Pats. Liam Cohen, a rookie head coach, takes the reins in Duval County. Now, Scott, both of these teams have some optimism for 2025. The Patriots' win total, after winning exactly 4 games each of the past 2 years, is 7.5. The Jags at 8 and a hook. They are hoping that Liam Cohen can reinvigorate the career of Trevor Lawrence to get them back into playoff contention around the AFC. The reason I bring that up is because when you're drafting 4th and 5th overall and you have those high hopes, you are either trying to make an instant impact with your selection, or you could be open to hearing some trade offers, moving back down to get a ton more draft capital to fill out the roster around your quarterback spot, which I think both the Patriots and the Jaguars could be looking to do, which presents the opportunity at least 8 days out from the NFL draft, teams to make their way up the draft board, trade with New England, trade with Jacksonville, add in a second or third rounder this year or next year, and an enticing trade package, and maybe leapfrog a team like the Saints or somebody else and not wait for the moment to go grab your quarterback. Could that be Shedeur Sanders? I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I tell you, if I'm the Patriots, I'm probably on the phone already, but I certainly would be on the phone the second the Giants draft pick came in and we found out it was not Shedeur Sanders. Because if you're the Patriots or the Jaguars, right, a trade, I don't think I'm not a drafting by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't get the sense that, Ben, this is a really great draft. You don't have that many big-time wide receivers and obviously not that many big-time quarterbacks. So if you want to give me the 9th overall pick, you take my 4th, and then next year you give me a 1st and maybe a 2nd, and chances are halfway decent that the Saints do, that'll be a top 15, if not 10 pick next year. And then I grab another 2nd maybe on top of that if I know what I'm doing as a salesperson. Boy, I'd make that move in a 2nd for New England, and I would make the move in a 2nd if I'm the New Orleans Saints as well. Again, ask yourself this. If Jalen Daniels was in the draft right now, or C.J. Stroud, would you give up an extra 1 and a number 2 for them? I think the answer would be yes. So if you believe in Sanders that much, then why not make that move? Why not? Yeah, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't risk, if I'm the Saints, having someone else do that. Because if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm certainly doing that, right?
Yeah, for sure, Scott. It might not even be trying to leapfrog the Saints. It might be the Saints being afraid of being leapfrogged, so moving up a couple of spots as well. And that would be enticing for either the Jags or the Patriots to drop, but not drop outside of the top 10 and still get a person they really enjoy, especially when you're New England. Right now, Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU, is the favorite to go there. But, Scott, for much of this draft process, it's been Will Campbell versus Armand Membu for who will be that first O-lineman taken. If you feel comfortable that both guys are pretty much a toss-up, that both are going to be outstanding, all right, I might move back a few spots if I can still get option B or 1A, if you will. Jacksonville right now favored to take the interior D lineman from Michigan in Mason Graham. If you feel pretty confident that, hey, we could fill that D-line need, but we also might need edge rusher or offensive lineman, whatever it might be, and if we move back a few spots, we're pretty comfortable with getting the prospect that we want there, then it does make some sense to get in more draft assets to fill out the roster for the entirety of the 2025 NFL draft, not just early on in the top 5, make a move and still be the better for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these teams, there's a reason why they're drafting 4, 5, 6, 7, right? They're awful football teams. They need more than one player. So if you could swap out of 4 and 5, and like you said, Ben, only drop to 9, and then still get a couple of more guys next year, I don't know how you not make that move. I'm a big believer. Listen, I get offensive linemen are important, but I'm a big believer you could develop an offensive lineman. As long as he's quick, give me a great offensive line coach over the better offensive lineman, and I'll take the lesser offensive lineman, but the better offensive line head coach or a coach, and I think I'll have just as good of an offensive lineman.
And of course, Scott, no position in football, perhaps all of sports, moves the needle one way or the other like a quarterback. So if you can go get a guy that you believe is going to change the shape of your franchise next year, 3 years from now, maybe forever, you go out there and you do just that. He is Scott Wetzel. I am Ben Stevens. That does it for us today on Football Full Circle here on Sports Grid Radio. FFC returns tomorrow. noon Eastern time on Sports Grid Radio.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.